Today, I legitimately had to crawl out of the depths of hell just to get back to profitable. I'm going to explain my trades and what I did ultimately resulted in me being able to largely avoid a $1,200 loss. But first, let's just jump over to the stats, break it down for you nice and clear. As you can see, today was a bit of a grind. Started out on a slow start, right? You can see pretty steady losses down, down, down. You can see that it wasn't really until around where I was able to reverse that these losses accelerated. The reason why is because I actually started positioning a little bit heavier towards where I thought the idea would work the best. Now I'm going to break down what I was looking at. We'll go through the best, the worst, and so forth. You can see it's a lot of inconsistency until I started to really try for the short right here. That's when I could tell the bias was lower, was starting to get positioned for a little bit of it, and then ultimately was able to bank this nice $594 trade. Very solid trade. And you might be saying, well, why continue if you don't have a good read? And that's a good question. You can honestly do a couple different things. You could sit out completely. Maybe after my first couple trades, I could have avoided the market. However, I felt like there was a decent chance for a move to happen today, given the fact that we had gapped down overnight. We were trading lower. I had two scenarios in mind, and we'll kind of break those down right here. Let's look at this chart. With this gap down, we were essentially under this weekly open right here, and this little pivot that I had. My expectation was that we would potentially start to see us trade lower. And down to this area was the idea. So I was able to finally get positioned for it. I was trying in here, couldn't necessarily get aligned with price, but I was able to at least catch a leg of it. Now, this is all on news right here. So a lot of today was based on the fact that Powell was speaking later in the day. It was really hard to trade prior to that, which I thought might be a scenario that was in play. However, it ended up just being the case. Yeah, like I probably should have avoided it. However, the thing is, I'm not going to tell you what I should have done. I'm going to show you what I actually did. Today was down like 1,200-ish, give or take, ended up about down 200. So it's a win in my book. I'm going to show you exactly what the account standings looking like. We got right here, down 193 on top one right here. You can see my performance, slight drawdown from the highs, basically $200, obviously 193. And you'll see between Asia and today, just a lot of executions. Now, this isn't me going long, short, long, short, long, short. No, that's so stupid. It's me trying to trade, trailing a break even, it's stopping. Trying to trade, trailing a break even, it's stopping. That's the gist of what happened today. Or there would be a couple trades where I try one direction, immediately stops as a loss, right? So it wasn't a matter of me feeling like unclear. I was trying at decent areas, and I'll kind of walk you through some of the charts on what I was looking at. So if you can see right here, we had this big push up overnight. Let's get this out of the way, actually. There we are. Big push up overnight. I was expecting to see some continuation in here. I tried some early longs, tried some longs down here. Should have been able to make money on that, but I just couldn't get positioned in a way that was profitable. Ended up catching this piece right here, and still, it just wasn't working. Ended up getting chopped up a lot right here. And then once this displaced, I caught some here, was able to short. And then I eventually got positioned for the second leg, which that was nice. It went in alignment with my bias. Initially, I did not like trying anything in this 4-hour consolidation, given the fact that I expected this to kind of go back and forth. So I was trying some positions in here, versus that. However, once we were able to finally get the move lower, that's when I was able to make a bulk of my profit. Now, all of this is perfectly fine because when you go and look at my risk settings in my top one account, my daily loss limit is $1,700. So I never got to that point. I got kind of close, right? Kind of $1,200 on top one, but I never got to that point. So I was okay losing this much. Obviously, it'd be a bit of an outsized loss compared to what I've done recently. You can see $7, $570, $267. However, I didn't think that I was off. I just felt like I didn't have the best positioning, and the conditions themselves prior to Powell weren't great. I acknowledge that, ultimately sized accordingly. And then once we were able to get past Powell, then I was able to find some better opportunities. So I think the lesson in today's video is it's about being in flow with the market, right? Like if I said, you know what, I'm done completely. I might have just ended the day down $800, right? If I quit before Powell, that would have been the scenario. But I was willing to say, you know what? I have this risk amount for a reason. I have the drawdown for a reason. I use these 150K accounts because they give you up to 3 grand intraday drawdown. If you look at this, 3750, you can add an additional one to get the full 6,000 in drawdown. But what I do is I set a risk limit, and these accounts, of course, $400 for 6 grand in drawdown all month with code DTA. Feel free to check that out. But the more important thing here is that ultimately, I did not let the market scare me away. I didn't let the market scare me away. I was willing to keep trying. I did not get timid. I felt that I could find a move eventually. And the only difference between this day being minus 200 and up 700 was simply the fact that this $594 trade right here, it took me a couple tries. So when I'm in right here, all of these, like these right here, and these right here, and I believe even this one, all of this was in an attempt to get the short. So we'll start right here with the minus 200. And you're going to see that, man, there's a bit of unluckiness that sometimes happens. Imagine being down $800 and you get short and you get stopped a top tick for $200. And then it starts to work. You see where the numbers start to change and your perspective of how I did changes. This wasn't a matter of me just, going and trying. It was a matter of me accumulating a couple losses, being able to make some of it back, ending up kind of in that same spot. And then when I started to see the idea that aligned with my edge, that's when it actually got a little harder because I started to size a little more for it. And I ended up getting stopped out multiple times on it. So it wasn't just a matter of me being down on the day and just being persistent. It was a matter of me finding that opportunity that was going to pay me and still getting stopped out. That's the difference. So this could have easily been a completely different video. But the point is, I think there's value in this itself because I wasn't afraid. Oh no, I took a $200 loss. That's fine. That's tuition paid to the game. That's part of it. It doesn't matter that I was right and I got stopped out. It doesn't matter that I was still trying the same idea. You can see right here, Bink again, the same idea. It all works. So I'm taking basically $300 in losses to then get that $500 back. You see, that's where it starts to flip. And then even down here, I was able to catch this last bit of the long into the end of the day. I'll go ahead and share that with you as well, because I think this is a pretty powerful trade. I was able to catch this after it reacted to an hourly low. So we'll go into the charts. I'll show you exactly what the levels were, but basically caught this whole thing 17 points. Cool. Not bad. So to go from being down $1,200, really it was about 800, and then I kind of got bottomed out when it got down to like 1,200 because of those losses that were on the best idea, and that's annoying, right? Like it would be nice to sit here and be like, I'm up again, another green day in a row. That's not the case because I'm a human. I'm not perfect. Anyone who says they're perfect or pretends they're perfect, they're just good at lying. I don't care to lie. This doesn't benefit me to tell you anything other than what I'm doing. So when we look at the charts, share with you some of the levels that I've been using. So pretty much what we've had coming into the session was, it was just this gap down, right? We can go right here, look at this ES chart, ES and Q. They're both trading interchangeably about the same. You just obviously different price levels, but you can see, gap up and then you have this gap down. So trading underneath it, the idea was to expand towards these lows right here. You might still reach for these lows. That's what we'll kind of go over next, but we had to kind of see how we trade overnight. So this is going to be a short week. Today's Wednesday, April 16th. Thursday is the last day of the week for us. We have Friday as a holiday. So what I was looking at coming into this day was really just this. I wanted to see how we reconciled with this range up here. And we eventually swept it one last time and then pushed lower. So it was on these, kind of make this a little clearer for you. It was on these pushes like this, like 930 push, and then it wants to roll. That's the stuff that got kind of tricky to deal with. So when you look at on like the 5 minute, because you think this is the short, right? And then it runs the new high, and then you get all of this and you're like, okay, maybe it's going to come back one more time, and then it just kind of fades. That was the tricky part. It wasn't the idea. The idea made sense for it to reject here, then trade lower. In fact, I even tried some of these shorts right here. I just couldn't get positioned. That's part of the problem. You get short here, trails you try this long, and chop, chop, chop. You catch this, no continuation, and then here, and then it drops, right? Like there's a lot of areas to do something incorrectly. I think today was a very challenging day. However, Post Powell, I do believe this opportunity was very clear. The amount of times that it dug higher, like, let's be real. When you have 3 pushes higher, I'm waiting this whole time, push, stop, and then one more time. It does it twice on me, and then I still get the trade right here down to right here. And you saw what happened once I finally got that position that worked. I was able to capture the bulk of it, like almost all of it, actually. So yeah, it's kind of annoying, but the thing is, I was able to stick with this idea because I believe in myself. I have faith in myself. I'm not going to do anything too stupid. I'm not out here trying to increase my position size. I'm trying to find the best opportunity. And knowing what I knew based on this 4-hour chart, I knew that we had room to trade lower down to this area. I told everybody this 5,300. If we're under 5,400, we could trade to 5,300. And that's what we did to a T. Now, whether or not we can hold 5,300 to then trade back higher, that's to be decided. We have to see how we open up in a couple minutes, about 20 minutes or so. By the time you're seeing this, it'll already be the new day. But what I'm going to be primarily focused on is how do we react here? Do we see a bounce here, or are we going to see further downside? The daily chart would suggest that we're more than likely going to see some downside, considering that we closed pretty weak and maybe we do form an inside day right here. However, I do think wick and then drop. I do think that's a reasonable scenario back down to this new week opening gap, this daily low right here, to potentially continue lower or start to base out. We can obviously start to kind of go like this for a minute before then seeing our leg up. So in this video, I hope you got something out of it. I'm just sharing my reflective thoughts from the session, showing you that it's okay to not be perfect. It's okay to take losses. My equity curve still looks better than most. So that's the part that you need to consider. Sometimes you'll do stuff that maybe you don't want to do every day. Do I want to trade power hour every day? No, I don't. Absolutely not. I can't even remember the last time I traded power hour. But that's what I did today. Just sharing it. So $3,000 on the month. Pretty steady growth, right? Like, you can't complain about this when you're given the opportunity to trade with, $6,000 in drawdown using something like top one. Can't really complain. So this is a decent month. I've only had 4 red days, and you can see they're all substantially smaller than my green days, like substantially. So with that in mind, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. I'm not going to try to reinvent the wheel. I think people get caught up when they find something that sounds nice in like an ideal world, but if it's not what you've done and that's got you success in the past, you have to avoid that. So yeah, we'll end there. Hopefully you enjoy this type of content. Share this with a friend, leave a comment. Talk soon. Later.